Hey, quick little disclaimer at the beginning of this video. So I recorded this with Gabby a while back, like right after I had moved to my new place, and apparently in that move, I fucked up my mic, and I didn't know that. This is the first thing I'd recorded after moving. The mic was fucked up. We attributed any kind of weird audio shit she was hearing to Discord and our connection just not being good, because that's a pretty common thing. So yeah, I sound like dog shit in this video. I sound kind of muffled. I'm still very audible. You can understand what I am saying. I am just not the most pleasant to listen to. That is why it sounds bad. And the reason we didn't re-record it is because this was already our second recording. We recorded it once, thought it was shitty, and then I broke my mic, and then we recorded, and then I sounded shitty. So yeah, sorry for the inconvenience. Hope you still enjoy the video. Welcome to the first and only episode of the Hugtto Precast. I'm Hale Zeon, and joining me is Precure specialist Gabby, aka Mozilla Vulpix.
Oh, I didn't realize we were actually gonna... fair enough. Hugtto Precast, I like the pun. I wasn't expecting there to be puns. I thought we were just talking about an anime, but fair enough.
Okay, if I have an opportunity to make a shitty pun, it's happening.
Damn it.
I love shitty puns way too much to just let them sit there. Just wait till we get so far into the Dragon Cast till we're doing, Hugtto the Galactic Patrol cast.
You would do that, wouldn't you?
I so would. So yes, this is just a one-shot video talking about the not the currently airing season of Precure, but the one that recently wrapped up, Hugtto Precure.
You say the 2018 to 2019 series, but mostly the 2018 series.
Yes, and so why the hell are we talking about this magical girl anime? Because it's really good. Gabby nagged me into watching it. Really, she just showed me some stuff, and I went, "Ooh, that looks really good," and then I watched it, and it was really good.
I mean, you're kind of exaggerating that, considering it was after a multiple week-long crusade of me trying to get people to watch the show and showing you the cool stuff from the show, for multiple weeks until you're fine, I'll watch it, and then you got hooked, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a very similar story to how I ended up watching My Little Pony, where my roommate Agro was just like, Zeon, huh? What's up? It's like, the new My Little Pony is really good. I'm like, I believe you. It's like, no, it's really good. I'm like, all right. It's like, you should watch it. I'm like, if I have time. And then one day he caught me when I didn't have anything going on. He goes, want to watch some My Little Pony? And I'm like, put your goddamn horsey cartoon on, we'll watch it. And then I'm 8 seasons later and still watching that shit.
God, it's 8 seasons long.
Wow. Yeah, no, season 9 is coming up, and it's going to be the final season of the series.
Okay, cool. It's not going to go forever. Cool, but...
Yeah, no, yeah. Literally, last year, they were like, okay, we're going to do season 8, and then season 9, and it's done. Maybe there'll be a movie afterwards, but after that, it's done, and we're going to move on to a different My Little Pony generation.
Ooh, that will be interesting and potentially divisive. But, yeah, so...
yes, very.
Yes.
But yeah, it already is. But yeah, anyhow, so we're here to talk about Precure. Gabby, would you mind telling the audience at home, what the fuck is a Precure, considering this has never really had a proper U.S. release?
Well, there was technically one dub in Canada, and also it's on Netflix, it's Glitterflops. But anyway, explaining. Okay, Precure, or Pretty Cure, or whatever you want to call it, it's technically it was called Pretty Cure, but then the way Japanese syllables, they sort of kind of meshed it together, and now it's Precure and whatever. But anyway, it is a magical girl show. So yeah, like Sailor Moon. And I think the best way of really describing it is if it's Sailor Moon, but if you made it even more Power Rangers than it already is. As in it has the element where it's every different year there's a new cast, and they're sort of pretty cure for new different reasons, and they have different powers and different villains and yada yada yada. And the seasons are sort of technically kind of connected, but not really. Everyone's sort of their own standalone story. And so also, the other reason why it's also really a lot like Power Rangers is because it's also, in some ways, it is a very glorified 22-minute toy commercial for little girls. Also, I think that's the other thing we also need to mention. Like My Little Pony, this is also a show for little girls. It's not really made for adults or whatever, and it's not really made for guys either, but it is also still surprisingly good. It's just you have to realize that there's a lot of, like, stuff that seems to be there because you're sort of like, oh, little girls would like that.
Well, yeah, because it's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like people instantly get, like, repulsed by, like, oh, there's, like, all this frilly stuff, and there's a lot of pink, and it's just like, so what? Like, because that's the thing, like, because it's not like these things are inherently feminine, it's just like we have coded these things as, these are for girls, these are for boys, and it's just like, and it's such a weird thing that we culturally, like, will turn our nose up at, like, little, like, men watching little girls' media, but then, like, girls can watch boys' media, and nobody says a goddamn thing.
I mean, that's sort of a pretty, like, been a kind of sort of gender role sexist sort of thing. Of,
oh,
like,
yeah, no, it has been. I'm just saying, it's bullshit.
Girls write shows for girls, and boys write shows for everybody, but, and it's, in a way, like, it is still like that. I mean, especially, like, even shows like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider try to be a bit more gender neutral, but Pretty Cure is very much, like, for girls, and they pander to girls and make everything very girly all the time. And, like, yeah, like I said, if you don't really like that kind of stuff, I don't know if Hugtto would necessarily change your mind, but at the same time, it's like, I think what makes shows like this is good is, like, once you accept that that's what it's like, that this is a very girly show, then, like, once you sort of understand and kind of accept the conventions of the whole genre, it's sort of like, seeing what they do with this story that you've seen 500 times before. Like, I think that's what makes it interesting, because, like, it is, like I said, it's like if you've watched multiple seasons of Power Rangers, you'd understand this. It's like this idea where every year it's sort of the same kind of story, the same kinds of characters, but they always put something different in it, or, like, there's a character who's just really, really interesting, or, like, one time the fight scenes are just really amazing.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that.
Yeah, because, like, it's, like, Power Rangers is obviously the go-to example for that, because, I mean, because I believe, yeah, Power Rangers, or Super Sentai is owned by Toei as well.
Yeah, although this is, it's Toei and Toei Animation who are producing the show. I mean, Pretty Cure, because it's animation and not live action. But yeah, it's
right.
The same
it's
sort of
also
idea.
The same parent company. The same philosophies are going into the show's productions, where it's just like, okay, you have your color-coded cast of protagonists. They're going to go fight monsters on a weekly basis. We're going to have an overarching story. Each season has its own unique story with its own themes, concepts, and ideas. Also, we're going to sell a fuck ton of toys out of this.
Yes.
To the point to where the characters are literally holding the toys that the kids are going to be buying in the show.
Oh, yes. It is, like, that's another thing that, I mean, when Zion was watching it, he was, like, he sort of, like, was messaging me, and he's like, Gabby, like, what's going on? Like, why are they just, like, stopping to, like, shill the toys? And I'm like, that's what this show is, because they can get away with it. And, like, that's how they get their money, because that's one of the main driving points of the reason why this series has been going on for so long, is because they, the way that the little trinkets that the girls use to transform, it's the magical girls, and their little, like, stick things that they use to make attacks with, and even the little cutesy mascots, they've all got toys that you can buy, and the kids buy them, and they're quite popular, or they're not as popular, or whatever, but, the fact is, it's such an integral part of the story that really, like, if you look at all the kind of sort of stock footage, like transformation sequences or like attack sequences, they're not only just like pretty little flashy lights and stuff that happen for the sake of looking cool. They're also like sort of instructions as to how you're supposed to use the toys, because the way that the characters move the toys or like, press this button or move this dial or whatever. Like that's what you're supposed to do with the real toy to make the flashy lights or do the pretend attack that the characters do in the show.
Yeah, and what she is describing is quite literally how it works in this show. Like they hold up their transformation device. It's not some small, elegant thing that like Sailor Moon would have, like her pendant or her brooches, or like the transformation pens that the scouts would have. No, these are big hunks of plastic with like little lights and charms on them, and you like fold them and unfold them to make different shapes, and you look at it and you go, yeah, I could completely see this sitting on a toy shelf. Just like the fact that just how much like toys they look is what really took me out of the show for the first few episodes, where I'm like, that's just a toy. That is a goddamn Fisher-Price toy that these characters are using as transformation devices that they are waving around. And I could just, like, the way that they were interacting with them, I could clearly just picture, like, oh yeah, no, like, like, they hit the button on the transformation device, and, like, then you would hit the button on the toy. They would, like, these parts will light up just like it does in the show. And then they introduced a thing called the Mirai Pad, which is, like, had like kind of connectivity a bit in its introduction to the show's mascot, which is a baby. We'll get into that in a bit. And I was just like, oh my god, I can totally picture in my head like how like you'd have like the Hugtto doll and how she would connect interactively with the Mirai Pad. And sure enough, when I look it up, yeah, no, that's how that shit works. And it was weird.
That's the thing, let's put it that way. That's the point. If they can get that across to you, then it's doing its job. Like, some earlier Precure seasons, I think it wasn't as... Like, they were trying to connect the toys, but, like, the toys didn't necessarily look exactly the same as they do when you buy them. But, like, I think in more recent years, they tried to make more of a synergy. I think they realized that, they get more successful that way if you can see how it works in the show before using it in real life. So yeah, like that's the point. Like it is a show that is made to sell toys to little girls, and that is the concept pretty much from the very beginning. The fact is the what makes it interesting is what they do with it, because you can't. I think it's just almost like, they just give these things to different people who are working at Toei Animation and, maybe want to actually tell a story.
Yeah. Okay. So, Gabby, you've been watching Precure for a long time. This is my first Precure series. And I got into it very much because of you. As you said, like, your holy Hugtto crusade to get people to watch this goddamn, like, candy-coated magical girl show, so that way you could just talk to another human being about it.
I mean, basically. I mean, like, for me, it's also just for the sake, like, the reason why I was sort of recommending it to Zeon wasn't necessarily just also that, but it was also just like, hey, this season's actually really good, because some of the seasons aren't very good, but this one is.
Yeah.
In fact, this one's made me cry a few times, and I need somebody to share my emotions with.
Right. And honestly, like, recommending, like, if you're gonna, like, I feel like out of all the people that if you're gonna recommend a magical girl anime, I'm probably one of the better ones to do it with, since, like, I'm already a huge...
I mean, that as well, yeah.
Because, like, I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan, I'm already a huge Cardcaptor Sakura fan, I'm a huge My Little Pony fan, like, I clearly am already a fan of the genre. I just haven't gotten into Precure because, well, Precure never really had a proper release in the US, so what the fuck was I supposed to do?
Fair enough. I mean, fair enough. Like I said, there was, like, the first season was dubbed in Canada, I think.
Yeah.
And then, like, 2 seasons are now on Netflix. It's Glitter Force, but they're quite heavily,
Saban.
I guess you could say, yeah. I mean, literally, they are Sabans. They're made by them. They were done by Saban. So, yeah, they're heavily Sabans, and yeah, they're called Glitter Force and Glitter Force Doki Doki for some reason, because even though Glitter Force wasn't the first season, it's Smile and whatever. But yeah, if you really want to watch it in English, I guess that's better than nothing.
I'm honestly been considering, like, going back and trying to watch Glitter Force, because I did, like, watch half of the first episode, and I'm like, oof, I feel like I'm watching a 4Kids anime from, like, 2002, and I just stopped.
I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, it is very much like not early, but like, it's Digimon dub tier.
Yeah.
Including also replacing the soundtrack, which unfortunately still peeves me because I'm always just like, there's nothing wrong with the old soundtrack. There's nothing wrong with it.
See, like, the thing that gets me is that, like, I've never had a problem with that stuff, and, like, I'm like, super nostalgic for, like, English dub Digimon and all of its butchered glory, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, to the point to where I'm not even, like, super inclined to go watch the Japanese versions other than Yu-Gi-Oh! Only because Yu-Gi-Oh! Never got, like, a full translation. Like, they skipped seasons, or they skipped arcs of certain seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! But when I tried to watch Glitter Force, I was just like, yep, okay, that's that. All right, I'm just gonna watch something else instead now.
I mean, it might be the nostalgia part, and also the fact that it is, it's aimed at a younger audience as well. So
true. So yeah, so Gabby, like, how did you first get into this obscure ass magical girl anime that has never had, like, an English-speaking release?
Well,
because you're not.
I mean, it hasn't had it hasn't had a really big English-speaking release, but it's not obscure. If you are, like, in Japan, you kind of probably, like, it's pretty much the only magical girl show that's consistently running nowadays, and it's been running for, like, 15 years now. It's not obscure. It's just obscure.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because, like, it's like talking about Lupin. Like, Lupin the Third is, like, one of the, like, biggest anime IPs in existence in Japan. Like, like Lupin himself is an iconic character in Japan, but in America, he's kind of way more of a very niche anime character, and not anywhere near as many people know of him or have seen his shows. Even his more recent series that he's had, like, those kind of gave him a little bit more popularity, but he's still a fairly niche character in series. And that's what I mean. It's just like, in English-speaking territories, these things are not exactly, like, in the public eye, especially something like Precure, which hasn't really had, like, an English-speaking release in my territory or your territory.
Yeah, so as how I got into Precure, I did research and stuff. I was looking up magical girl shows. They said Precure was one that was airing still nowadays, and I'm like, wow, a new one, a show I could watch now, and then I did, and I, found subs, and it was like, hey, not only that, like, see, the other thing, I know maybe a lot of people who probably heard Magical Girl and have tuned out now, but guys, they also punch people. They punch people. Do you like that? Does that sound cool? Because that's what Precure has.
Yeah.
I mean, not all the time, to be fair. Not all the time, but it's one of the things that really sets it out from, like, Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura or, like, Tokyo Mew Mew, Wedding Peach, I don't know, all the other ones. They actually use their fists to fight, and, like, being a Precure basically just, like, gives you, like, super strength and, like, super jumping skills and whatever. So there's actually sometimes really cool battle scenes, like, actually cool ones. And sometimes get, like, really intense and whatever, like, especially in the first season. Fun fact, the very first season of Precure, it's called Futari Precure, which is, like, the two of us at Precure. It was directed by Daisuke Nishio, which you may know his name because he was also the director of Dragon Ball Z. No, I'm not joking here. I am not joking here. The guy who did Dragon Ball Z later on did a sparkly magical girl show, but the magical girls also punch people. So, like, that was, I think, one reason that did actually attract me to Precure, and in all honesty, like, it's not, like, the battle scenes aren't always, like, the highlight of the season. It definitely wasn't the highlight of this season. In fact, like, this season was just one where I was like, I wish that there was more action, but at the same time, the story this season was so well done, I don't really mind too much.
Right. Like, and I do love, like, because Hugtto was a big, like, anniversary season. It was, what, 15th?
15th.
The 15th anniversary of Precure. So they had, like, some crossovers with the Futari Precure. And, like, it's great because, like, you see, like, all the other Precures, and they're all doing, like, their magical girl attacks. Some of them are fist fighty, but, they all do their own fist fighty stuff at some points, but they all also have their own magical girl attacks, like you would expect. And then you just have the first two Precure, who are just beating the ever-loving shit out of these monsters with just fists and kicks, and it's awesome.
Oh man, no, it's like the original like Futaniwa Pretty like fighting style is sometimes it's just like it's so cool because it's just so intense. Like it's just like punch flurries and like doing insane like triple backflips, and it's the coolest thing. And like it is that is one of the things that initially kind of made Pretty Cure stand out, and it's not as much of a big factor nowadays, but it's still a thing that's there. There was a point where I thought that we thought that they might be gone for good, but it's back, and it's cool. Like I said, it's one thing that does make it a bit different from just another Sailor Moon ripoff, because like even though Sailor Moon can be enjoyable, like the fight scenes in Sailor Moon are pretty boring.
Yeah, no, like the fight scenes are never the highlights. They're usually kept very short, and usually the only one who really is kicking the shit out of people is Jupiter. So yeah, which is why Jupiter's best.
And even then, that's like not even her power. It's just she just kicks the shit out of people.
Right? Yeah,
normally.
no, like even when she's not in her scout form, she's just beating the shit out of people. So yeah, that pretty much is a good summary of Precure, how we each got into it, and now I guess in this Hugtto cast we can actually, now that we've set the groundwork for everyone, talk about Hugtto itself.
Okay.
And oh my god, I love this show so goddamn much. As I said before, I am a pretty big fan of magical girl animes. I think Hugtto Precure might actually be my favorite. And it's so weird to say that because, because when I think of Hugtto, or when I think of Precure, I think of, like, assembly line magical girl show. Like we're just gonna crank one of these out every single year, and it's just like, yeah, there'll be some good ones, and there'll be some shit ones, and like some will be really cool, and some of them will be okay, and but like they're never gonna really elevate to any kind of like really noteworthy status. But here, like the storytelling, the emotions, the theming, I was not prepared for what I got. Like, because prior to this, I would say my favorite magical girl shows were the third season of Sailor Moon Super, and Cardcaptor Sakura. I think both of those are like really just like top tier magical girl stuff. I think that they do a lot of great, like have great storytelling, great characters, a lot of good forward momentum in their storytelling, even though both are very episodic. But here, just like the amount of emotion that Hugtto made me feel every so many episodes was shocking. And like how much it made me care about these characters, how much I understood about these characters within just a couple of episodes. Just the very mature topics that like this show explores with these characters. Just it was shocking, honestly. And like Gabby, like this is not the norm for Precure, correct?
Not exactly, no. Like in some ways it is, because I mean sometimes Precure gets a bit more, serious with the subject matter or whatever, but it's not really such a consistent underlying thing that goes throughout the entire year, and especially doesn't necessarily try to tug at your heartstrings so many times, because I think one of the best parts of about Hugtto that makes it stand out to me is the sort of overall theme. Like earlier Pretty Cure seasons didn't necessarily have a theme. Sometimes the themes would just be as simple as like butterflies or flowers or like music, but the last few years they've tried to make a very like strong theme, and this year the theme is basically all about like sort of careers and also like the future. It's basically about characters growing up and working out what they want to do with their lives. And if that sounds like something that sounds really relatable,
yeah,
it's because it is. And they use the aspect of the story to do, to discuss a lot of different kinds of things, lots of different kinds of issues, and just stuff that even though you're not necessarily even a 14-year-old, 13-year-old girl who like these main characters are, you can still understand and really kind of feel like the same kinds of emotions that they're feeling right now.
Yeah, like it's yeah, like I said, like I was just really taken aback by just the theming and the concepts that it rolls with. And as you were saying, like this one is focused on careers and looking towards the future and building a better self and like like your goals and aspirations and reaching them. And also, it's not all positive when it deals with this. Like it deals with the self doubt, the anxiety that comes with the uncertainty of what your future holds for you. And also, like, from the villain's perspective, it's also about, like, like just keeping things the way they are, keeping the future from happening so that way you don't have to experience heartache and tragedy and disappointment and potentially the apocalypse.
Yeah, and which is a very relatable motivation for the villains. It's like you don't really understand, like they sort of elaborate on more later on in the story, but yeah, the idea is like the basic conflicts of these characters are actually relatable, as opposed to like, oh, there's some evil people from an evil dimension, and we are the good people from the good dimension who have like shown up to try and save the world from the evil people. Now, it's like it is a story where it's basically like it's about these girls and what they want to become and what they want to protect, and these other people who want to keep things the same and want to, like their goal is basically to stop time, and the reasoning is like, because if they stop time, essentially, like, there will be no, you can just live in eternal happiness forever without anything ever changing.
Correct.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's a very relatable theme.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it very powerful. To be fair, also, like, the theme itself isn't necessarily enough to make it a really good show, but I think it's something that made me more interested in the show when watching it.
Yeah, and as you said, like the theme isn't what makes the show great. It is one of the elements that makes it great. And like it uses the fact that it uses its theme to really explore its characters, and the fact that the characters are so relatable and they have all of these goals and aspirations and struggles, and even the villains have goals, and they, as we were saying before, like the concept of this season is you have villains from the future coming to the past to stop time. They were looking for the white crystal, correct? The white Mirai crystal?
Yes. I mean, the motivations are a bit weird in that, like, you don't really understand. They don't really give a good explanation exactly as to how they're going to stop time. But it's like, first they want the white Mirai crystal that, like, the QT mascots have. And then, like, they want to kind of spread despair because, like, they can use that to stop time somehow. It's like the villains the villains' plans are a bit like not that well written, but it's like clearly it's just sort of like they show up, they make a giant monster out of somebody who is feeling negative emotions, and then the Pretty Cure are going to stop the monster from destroying everything.
Yeah, and so like you have like these villains from the future, and you have our two mascot characters who are also from this kind of post-apocalyptic terrible future, and they have come to escape the villains. And you have Harry, who's this little talking hamster guy who is awesome as hell, who can also turn into a handsome, suave Bishonen guy. And then you have
because this is a show for girls, and
and girls need
essentially fan service.
And girls need cute boys to look at while also looking at their cute anime girls to aspire to be. And then you have Hugtto, who is this adorable little baby character who you think is going to be the most obnoxious thing in the fucking world, and instead she is absolutely adorable. And I ended up loving this character so much because like they give her so many like little emotional beats, like when a character is like kind of sad or whatever, and she'll just kind of walk up and try to console them in like her own little baby way. And it's, oh my god, the way this series handles feels is so good. And
it just goes all the way
it
with
does.
it. Like, that's the thing.
It does. It is not
See,
afraid to
like,
just
I think
really
that's
rip your heart out and just like this show's modus operandi is to make you fucking cry. That is what it is about. If you do not cry, the show isn't doing its job, because that is what it is here to make you do, cry.
And that's the thing, when we say the show is going to make you cry, you think it's like, oh, is it just because lots of tragedy and people die all the time? And it's like, no, it's not like that.
No.
It just makes you cry because of just how pure these emotions are. Like, it's emotions of, like, you know, a character realizing that she feels inadequate to her friends, or a thing of a character who is a literal robot sort of realizing that she's feeling emotions, or a story from like the feelings of a character realizing that her best friend who she's met over the past few months is going to have to leave her eventually, and they're going to have to say goodbye at one point. Like, stuff like that. Stuff that, like, I mean, yeah, if you really think about it, it's not like the end of the world, but like, if you could imagine it happening to you, you could imagine you feeling very emotional over it. And basically, they don't say, oh, we're just going to feel a little bit sad or whatever, and maybe, like, just not really focus on it. Like, they focus on it. You know, they are all right with having these characters start crying or feeling sad or just, you know, feeling emotional or whatever. Like, it's sort of like, it's not like it breaks the characters, but, you know, the characters react realistically to these situations that they're put in. And it's heart-wrenching because you can understand it.
Yeah, because, like the show spends so much time humanizing these characters that, like I said, I do love the fact that, like the emotions in this series feel so genuine and raw and hard-hitting. And because there are so many shows, like, you know, when I think of, like, anime that's designed to make you cry, I think of Clannad. Clannad is a really good example of it. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Okay, Clannad, shoujo anime based off of a dating sim visual novel game from, like, the early 2000s, and it's a good show. It's very cute, and it's very emotional, but it's very cheap in how it kind of plays on your emotions, because it does play up, like, the tragedy aspects of certain things, and, oh no, this bad thing happened to this really cute, sweet character. Don't you feel sad? And that's not what Hugtto is about. It is about making you understand these characters and their personal struggles and empathizing with them, and then you being kind of wrapped up and invested in what they're going through, and, like, you know, you feel their emotions that they're going through. So when they're upset about their failures, you're upset about their failures. And yeah, this series just does not fuck around.
I think also another reason as to why it works so well is because it does tie into the actual magical girl aspect. It ties into the whole, like, them being pretty cool. Because, like, I think the first example is in episode 4, when a character is basically not emotionally ready to do something because she's got some trauma, and because of that, like, there's a moment where you think she's going to become a pretty cure, and then she can't do it.
Yeah.
In fact, that happens twice.
So, okay, so for the sake of this podcast, like, should we keep things kind of vague for right now?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we'll just do that. Why not?
So we won't totally
we don't go everywhere.
spoil. Yeah, okay, so we won't totally spoil things for anyone who wants to watch this series. We will not, like, name drop characters and go through their entire character arcs. We'll just kind of keep it vague, and if these things catch your attention, maybe you'll want to watch. But yeah, no, like you have, as you were saying, like, you know, you have one character who is, you know, like, you think she's going to be a Precure, but because of her own personal, like, hang-ups and, like, trauma that she has experienced, like, it actually holds her back from being a Precure.
Yeah, she fixes it. She gets it. Of course, she gets it eventually, which obviously just makes it even all the more satisfying. It's like, you know, it's that moment where it's like, oh yeah, like, maybe not everyone can just, like, suddenly just go and have their magical transformation device appear in front of them and just transform and save the day. Like, maybe they're not ready yet, but then, like, you know, it takes her 2 episodes, and in the second episode, she's like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do it this time. And it feels so satisfying.
Yeah, and, like, that character goes on to, like, just, like, you know, like, really go on to, like, live her dreams. There's also, like the romance in this series is also, I think, really, really good. Because, like, the series deals quite a bit with unrequited love. You have a Precure who falls in love with someone only to essentially just be shot down. Like the person that she loves is emotionally invested in someone else, and just, like, you know, he even says, like, I'm sorry, I can't return your feelings to you right now. And, like, she's just like, okay, well, at least I got it out of my system. And then she goes to her friends, and they're like, so how did it go? And she goes, I totally bombed it. And then she just, even though she had been smiling and acting like it was A-okay up until that point, she has the big emotional breakdown where, like, she's finally kind of confronting it.
But, like, it's not sad. That's the thing. Like, it's not sad because, like, she's basically just crying into her friend's arms, and, like, her friends are sort of smiling, like, you know, and they're sort of like, yeah, no, you know, this feeling sucks, but I'm so proud that you're able to go through, you, like, you know, that you were able to face it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's amazing because that moment is like a direct parallel to a moment earlier on where it's one of the other characters. She's feeling inadequate, and in fact, it also led to a situation where she basically failed to protect Hugtto, but she couldn't become a Precure, and she basically spends the next day, night and day, just like feeling terrible about herself. And then, like, the next morning, her friends like show up to her house like first thing in the morning and start like explaining what's everything that's so amazing about her, and how she shouldn't think that she's worthless because she has all these amazing traits to her. And then her other friend, the one who gets rejected, she's like, at first she's the one who sort of like, you know, holds her hands out and like says, like, you know, just comes in for a hug, and they just sort of like hug. And then they do it again with the reverse when that character gets her.
Oh my god, I never noticed that. That's so good.
I know, right?
Oh,
I
like
know,
the writing
right?
in this show, the continuity.
The continuity sometimes can be surprisingly good. Like, obviously, you know, it's not perfect.
I didn't even think about that. That they swapped those dynamics around.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's amazing. And then there's like, heck, even other examples, like in the like the second or third last episode, I think third last episode, and it's the final, like, the main character is like just like is having her sort of final temptation, is like she's thinking that she might actually break down, and all of her friends are going to kind of come and sort of, you know, cheer her up and rescue her and kind of like give her the courage again. And both her two best friends say things that like either she said to them, or that like they had talked to her about in their first like recruitment episodes, like the very early on in the series. I realize it's like the same lines. It's like one time where like Saya is like, you know, I can do things that you can't, and you can do things that I can't, and together we can do great things. And she says that in the second episode of the series, and then she brings it back again in like one of the last episodes of the series.
Oh, I completely missed that. Like, okay, so this is why I'm glad you're around, because you have like this steel trap memory for like lines of dialogue and for like scenes and episodes. Like the fact that you can remember.
Well, no, I honestly, I mean, to be honest, I honestly didn't realize that it seemed familiar, but I wasn't sure. But then just recently I rewatched the second episode because I was just curious as to how it was sort of like how exactly those episodes stack up, and then I saw that, I'm like, wait, that's the line. It's the same line.
Okay.
Shit.
All right. So yeah, like just all of these characters. Oh god, just like I could go on forever about like just how much I love everything. Like there was one character amongst the girls who at first, okay, there's two at first I didn't like, but there was one that I was very indifferent towards, and I couldn't really tell where they were going with her character. It kind of felt like her episodes didn't have like the same emotional weight to them, and like once again, it like they culminate in her character where like it ties back into the themes of the show about choosing your path in life, and she has the path that her family has set her on, and then she has the path where like throughout the course of the series she realizes, oh my god, I really love this thing, like this is what I want to do with my life. This is where my passion is. This is where my heart is. And like this is how she wants to make a difference in the world. And she has to confront her mother about this. And her mother is like, oh, that's okay. I support you. But deep down inside, her mother doesn't. And her mother ends up becoming the villain of an episode. And it's just because of the negativity that she felt. Because, like the disappointment that her daughter was never going to live the life that she always envisioned her having. And that's that's a very real thing that parents deal with when their kids don't end up the way that they expected them to.
And then, of course, because this show is hardcore as shit, it ends up with the daughter basically realizing it's her mother, basically kind of like almost like entering the monster, and then just sort of like her mother is basically in this sort of wide void of just like her thinking about her memories of her with her daughter and how much she loved her and everything. It's basically then like she just kind of confronts her mother, but it's not because like her mother is evil. She's just, she's just distraught. She's just sad and upset, and she's not like, she understands her, but she's, she's still like, yeah, she's just having these like all these like she's just very emotional over all those feelings, and it's her basically being like, her confronting her mother and being like, no, it's because of everything that you did for me that I was able to understand that this is the path that I want to take. And she's basically like, there's nothing wrong. And then, of course, it leads to just her giving her mom a hug and saying, thank you for, like, letting me be born to this world. Like, oh.
Yeah.
God, that's...
This series, like we said, it's so emotionally raw. It never, like, half-asses the feels. Like, if they're gonna hit an emotional beat, they're gonna make you feel every ounce of emotion that character is going through in that moment. Like, and the whole, like, okay, like, the series is called Hugtto, so obviously hugging is a thing.
Hugging is
so
a thing.
There's a lot of, but it isn't just like, oh, let's just hug it out. No, this is like, you are embracing the other person, you are trying to support them, and you are, it is entirely a series founded on empathy. And, like, this comes through a lot with the villains, where, like, the villains don't, like the sub-villains, like, like when you rotate out your villains, in a Magical Girl series, like, oh, it's this villain, and then after a few episodes, that one gets replaced, and they don't die, they become good guys. They get reformed.
Basically, yes.
And it's usually, and it's always through empathy. It is always the heroes stopping to take a moment and, like, really trying to, like, open up, or get these villains to open up. And, like, with the first one, it's just kind of this big emotional embrace, like, I'm going to hold on to these feelings for you.
It's... Yeah, basically all of the villains get defeated by hugging it out.
Yes.
But also but at the same time, it only really happens when the villains are at their, like, emotionally low point.
Yes.
They're stressed to the limit from everything that they've had to do. And at some point it turns them into the monster.
Yes.
And that's when it's sort of like, like when they've just sort of gone as far as they can go, and they barely know what to do. That's when it's like the characters realize that they're suffering. They sort of like enter them and basically just give them a big hug and big like, I know it hurts and I understand, but you can keep going.
Yeah.
And you've always got a future waiting for you. And it's like, oh shit! So did this suddenly just become a show about girls helping adults with depression?
Yeah, it really is, because, like, once again, like, as you just kind of point out, like, the villains are all adults and stuff, and, like, you have, as I mentioned before, like, the series really hits on like unrequited love, and you have a villain who gets her heart broken, and this leads to her lowest point, which leads to her becoming a monster, and this leads to the main character like. No, it wasn't the main character. It was...
No, it was Emiru and Lulu.
Yeah, it was Emiru and Lulu, yeah. So you have two of them going in and, like, just talking to her about her feelings. And...
basically saying that even though your love wasn't requited, those feelings weren't fake. Like, you still have love.
Yeah, like, they're still valid.
Yeah, your
like,
feelings
still
are still valid.
Still matter.
Oh, it's beautiful. Your feelings are still valid, even if they didn't lead to you.
I'm tearing up again.
I know,
God damn
right?
it, this fucking show.
Yeah, like...
oh, God, just thinking about this show makes me just, like, fucking tear up, because, like, it makes me re-experience all the goddamn emotions that the series fucking put me through. And, like, this is, like every, like, 5 or so episodes, this goddamn show will do this to you, where like, you have a character, like, in her mother's lap, crying her eyes out over the fact that, like, she feels inadequate to her friend.
Yeah, that was the first episode where I was like, okay, I think this is going to be something really special. Yeah. It was like about episode 10 or so. And yeah, it's basically, because I think, like, what got to me, it wasn't even necessarily that. Like, that was, obviously, that was a cool moment in of itself. But then, like, the way that her mother responds is basically just like, listen, when you were born, you gave your you gave your father and I so much happiness. And even now, like, if you just your smile is just enough to make us happy. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
That, like that hit me because, like, that is something I can imagine my parents saying to me.
Right?
Like, when I was a young girl. Like,
right?
oh.
Like, this series just feels so genuine in its emotions. Like, fuck. Like I've never seen a series quite, like, the only thing I could think of, like that hit me on, like, an animated series that really hit me on the same emotional level is, like the really heavy episodes of Steven Universe. And even Steven Universe didn't hit me as frequently and as deeply as this series has. Because, like, when I think of, like, Steven Universe episodes that really hit me.
To be fair, you've only watched, like, what?
A season and a half.
You haven't watched all the seasons. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, in other seasons...
That's like 60-something episodes. That's quite a lot.
I know, but, like, season 1 doesn't get as,
True.
crazy as other points of the season. Like I said, I think it's like season... It's near one of the finales. I need to, when you watch it, we need to talk about it, because that episode made me bawl my eyes out for, like, a very long time.
Okay.
And it was messed up. But anyway,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like I said,
so,
this show, okay,
show.
it's like, the stories don't sound too crazy when you think about them, but, like, the fact that they just go all the way with every sort of, if you're having, like, if a situation like this is happening, how would you actually feel about it? It's not just like, you just deal with it because you're the main character and everything's fine. No, it's just always just like, there was an episode about they're, like, at a hospital, sort of looking and seeing what, like, the midwives and the nurses do and stuff. And there's an episode where, like, the focus, like, this little girl, and the little girl is, like, so upset because her mother is going to give birth to another child, and she's worried that she's worried that she won't be the favorite anymore, and that, like, her mother isn't going to care about her. And, like, that doesn't sound too crazy, but then, like, like, the child basically just starts, like, crying and being like, I don't want to have a little brother or sister, or just, like, just going full on, just being like, I love my mom and she hugs me, and that won't be the same if I have a brother or sister. And it was like,
oh my God.
That's what they would say.
Like,
that is what they would say.
Because, like, I want to say right now, like, as the oldest of a few siblings, like, when I first had, like, my first younger sibling, that is how I felt. Like, I felt like I was gonna get neglected. Like I was actually losing my mom. And so, like, that was an episode that hit me, because I knew that feeling.
Because, like I said, see, they could, because, like, obviously, in fact, there are shows like this, even out of Precure episodes, where they'll touch on it, but like they'll go the easy way out. They'll be like, oh, it's okay. They're not going to have the character break down emotionally like this.
Yeah.
Or like they like even then like there's even other cool things like in that episode where it was like the mother was having a C-section, and they take time out to explain that having a C-section is fine, that's perfectly socially acceptable.
Yeah, no, like that episode with the woman giving birth was real. That shit was.
Yeah, there was actually 2 episodes with women giving birth.
Yeah, it was 2.
Because, like I said, because
2.
like the future and also like motherhood is like another theme, because you have the baby and the characters have to look after the baby. And like,
yeah, no, motherhood is a huge theme in this. I didn't even think, because it doesn't really tie. It's a theme that is ever present, but it doesn't like tie into like the villains and the hero dynamic. But it is a theme. But it is a theme that ties in more with the characters.
Yeah,
well, I guess it does tie in with the villains also.
Yeah, because
it's just you don't really know that until near the end of the series.
Yeah, and it's like
this show is so good.
Basically, it's because like I'll be honest, when I first heard that like one of the producers said like, oh, motherhood's going to be a big theme, I'm like, oh great, here we go. Is this part of Shinzo Abe's secret plan to indoctrinate the children to have more babies and yada yada yada, and let's go around and make our traditional values and yada yada. But like it doesn't feel like that. It is not like the go and have a night, go and give up your job, have a baby, have a good husband. It's not like that. It's more like just the very idea of like just having somebody that you're basically like somebody that you're helping and raising and giving advice to. Like it's kind of that sort of motherhood.
Yeah, and just because you have Hugtto, the baby. She obviously plays into this dynamic with the main character and like how everyone kind of takes care of her and raises her, and man, there's just so much in this show to unpack, and it's just and we haven't even touched on all the characters yet. We only talked about a couple of them.
Exactly.
And like
exactly, and we didn't even. I mean, mostly just sort of like in kind of broad strokes anyway.
And anyhow, like, okay, the character we were talking about who, like, breaks down to her mother crying about her own inadequacies, that isn't even, like, resolved in that episode. Like, yeah, like, they have, like, the hug it out, it's okay, we appreciate you. She still lives with that self-doubt throughout the series.
Basically throughout her whole life. Like,
yeah, like she never actually gets over it, and she still has that insecurity about herself, and if she's actually, like, as good as the people that she surrounds herself with, if she's as valuable as them. And, like, the show will take time every so often to just kind of reflect on her sadness about that.
Oh, yeah, no,
it doesn't, like, beat you over the head with it, but you'll see, like a 10-second kind of somber moment with this character, and just, it's just like, oh no, she's really upset still about this thing, and then, like, she'll kind of, like, wipe a tear and then go back to what she was doing and act like everything's cool, but it's already in your mind that you already know she's upset, but she's trying to hide it, and like, it's a very real human thing that we've all done.
Yeah, I think like, there's like a few points where she's just like she thinks about like something that somebody said or something's happened, and she's just like, no, I can't think about it. I have to be positive for everybody's sake. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, no, because she is the one who tries to motivate and cheer other people on, and
right, yeah, because that's amazing. Yeah, the character with all these inadequacy issues, she is the main character of the show, and like that's the thing, main characters oftentimes they're the least flawed, they're sometimes the least interesting.
Or if they are flawed in, like, superficial ways, like Usagi Tsukino, like Sailor Moon. She's clumsy, and she's lazy, and she, like, isn't good in school, but, like, she's still a great friend, and she doesn't really have any actual life problems. The main character of this series, like, she's riddled with insecurities.
And insecurities that come from actual reasons that make sense. So for example,
it literally, like, a lot of her insecurity comes from the fact that, like, she looks up to her friends and doesn't feel like she's as good as they are. because
And
they're
not
so
even that, I'm also talking
talented,
about, like,
and they.
and not even that, I'm also talking about, like, her backstory.
Oh yeah, no, oh no, yeah. Like her backstory is really fucked up. Like not like
it's
grimdark
it's
fucked
not
up,
like
but it's like
terrible. Yeah,
relatable. Like
it's
that
not,
shit
but it's sort of
happens
like
in
a
real life. Fucked up.
yeah, and it's just like I think what makes the main character so great, I think what made me really like relate to the main character, Hannah, is that like from the first episode, essentially her like she kind of has a dream, she has a goal, and her goal isn't necessarily like say somebody like Haruka in Go Princess where she wants to be a princess or things like that, but no, her goal is to be a cool, mature adult. And that's like
Yeah.
that is 100% best motivation, most relatable character ever. Because goddamn it, don't we all want to be that?
Right? Yeah, no, like everybody goes through life like I want to be a cooler version of myself. I want to, and like she feels like she can't even achieve that. And
But like she gets there obviously, and she gets there with
yes.
help of with her friends. You know,
Yeah.
this because like the thing is, God, we haven't even talked about the character designs and everything. But it's like see, her magical girl outfit is based on a cheerleader, and she's called
Yes.
Pure Yell because like yelling, like sort of cheering on, and her whole thing is that she cheers everybody else on. She might not be that special herself, but she thinks that everybody else is amazing, and she's going to cheer them on for every hardship that they go through.
Mm-hmm. And then you have like Saya, who is like her theme is like a nurse, like an angel nurse is kind of her aesthetic. And
yep.
She's very motherly, she's very caring, she's very nurturing, and that also ties into her character and where her development goes. Homare, it took me a while to really get her thing because she's a flight attendant, and I got what they were doing with it, but it's so weird because it's supposed to be a metaphor for her, raising high, like ascending, like a plane does. And I get the metaphor. It's just really weird and probably the most abstract of all of them.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, because because also she is a figure skater, and she was a figure skater who at first wasn't able to jump because of an injury, but then eventually she jumps, and like she says, like the way that she says of like jumping, making a jump is that she's gonna fly. So she's gonna fly like a plane, like a flight attendant.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I got what they were going for, but it was such a weird way to do that because I'm like, why not just make her an ice skater themed?
Well, it's because she's already an ice skater. That's the thing, yeah.
Right? Yeah, no, I guess that is the thing. It's like, like the thing is supposed to be metaphorical and the other characters, yeah. It was just weird because it's like, it is the most abstract of the Precure characters. And then you have Lulu and Emiru, and these two characters, oh my god.
If you want to talk about characters to make you cry, it's them.
Yeah.
Because, well.
Yeah, no, everything, because you have Lulu, who is and this is where we're going to start getting a little bit into spoilers, because, like, to really start talking about these characters at any level, you have to start spoiling a little bit. But you have Lulu, who is a android who was from the villain team, who switched sides after basically learning human emotion and empathy and
love, basically. She learns love.
Yeah, she learned love. She quite literally learned love and to care for others. And then you have Emiru, who is this tiny little girl who's much younger than the other Precure.
I think she's only like a year. I mean, I think she's only like a year younger, but she's shorter at the very least. Yeah.
Okay, about to say, because man, she's so tiny. Because I know she's like the same age as Hana's sister.
Yeah, and I think Hana's sister's like a year younger, but I'm not exactly sure, to be fair.
Man, if so, that's... Man, that's
I mean, okay, to be fair, I could also totally buy Emiru just being really short for her age as well.
She could be.
Like, that would make sense. Like, she's just this tiny little bundle of anxiety and rock and roll and...
Right, yeah, so you have Emiru, whose whole thing is, she's kind of a spoiled rich girl. Well, she's not really spoiled, she's just a rich girl, and she has this, like, very, like, her upbringing has been very traditional. Like, oh, you need to a lot of this comes from her kind of stuffy older brother who has his own fucking character arc in this series that we'll get to in a bit. But like he's like, oh well, this isn't what proper ladies should do. You should be like this. You should be playing piano. You should be touching guitars. Guitars, like, that's rock and roll. You should be, you should be presenting yourself like this, like an elegant, young, respectable woman. And through her kind of relationship with Lulu, she starts kind of embracing what she wants and who she wants to be, and standing up to her brother, like, and
then they make an idol
they
rock
literally
band
make
together.
a fucking idol rock group, which is also their themed characters, like their Precure theme, and
yep.
So they are idol themed Precure, and they are just like it works really well because because the entirety of these characters is that they are a duo. Like literally, like on their own, they are good characters, but they strengthen each other so much. And that's where a lot of the show's biggest emotional beats come through. And oh my god, like when it just comes to like Lulu like not feeling human enough or just whatever it might be, it's just, oh my god.
And then just because it's just because like it is just basically it's like the story of like these two very unlikely people who just realize they actually have something in common. In this case, it's sort of like music and love and stuff like that. And then they basically just becoming best friends. It's basically a story about two really unlikely best friends.
Yeah.
Who just are like.
Yeah, and just.
It's just about how like pure and wholesome their friendship
is. It really is.
And it is.
Yeah, no, it is. And like I honestly thought like, because I was kind of waiting for like this is like when are the lesbian undertones gonna start kicking in, and it never really does. It is, they actually do keep it very pure. In the sense that it's, they love each other very much, and they are just two people who support one another and make each other stronger just by the other one being in their life. And they're good. They're good characters.
Also because they're idols, they have a whole bunch of songs that they have, and some of them are very good and feelsy. Well, like, okay, they kind of have like 3 songs, so they've got like the their like pop idol song, which is like just sort of cute, and they play it a few times. But then they've also got like these 2 other songs, and one of them is like this song that Emiru basically writes for Lulu about how they're going to be, about how how much she loves her and how much she wants to like talk about how much she cares about her, and it's this. Is this, like, once again, it's like, it just comes at the right time, and, like, they just play the song, and it's like, Lulu is crying at first, and then she joins in, and it's like, oh god, oh, yep, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also got the song that, like, they basically kind of start singing once they become Precure, where it's basically, like, almost like they're so happy to be Precure, and, like, to basically be able to, like, help people alongside each other, and be Precure together, and they just like sing this cute little song, and it's goddamn it. It's good.
Okay. So something I really want to get across is like, and this is once again spoiler warning. Sorry,
spoilers.
Talk about
anyway,
this.
we've spent like an hour talking without spoilers. Now,
yeah,
spoilers.
I'm about to say, if you're not interested in the show at this point, like if you don't want spoilers, go watch the show. You can find it on the internet. Just look it up. Just look up watch Hugtto Precure. I'm sure you'll find it because you can't watch it legally, unfortunately.
Gotta find fan subs.
But yeah. So if you don't care about spoilers, or maybe spoilers will make you want to watch more, because I'm actually one of those people where like some shows though I don't want to watch, but then someone will tell me a spoiler. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome, and then I'll go watch it.
I mean, technically, that's what I did with you.
You did. That is exactly how you got me into watching this.
I was like,
because you showed me the first big emotional beat.
Exactly. Look at this stuff that happens in episode 10. Don't you think this is a great show? Don't you think you should watch it?
And I'm like, oh my god, my heart. This is what? This is Precure? Is this what Precure's like?
Answer: it's not always this good, basically.
Yeah, no. And so yeah, Emiru and Lulu, like, they both wanted to be Precure, but there was only one Precure device left. So then you had this whole thing of like, oh no, like, I don't want to hurt the other one, and literally because, just because of their friendship and their bonds, like, they literally are able to produce a second transformation device, and they are both...
Like, it literally, like, splits in two,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and they each get their own crystal to put into it to become Precure, and they are technically the same Precure, like, because, you have, Precure is the Precure of Spirit, Curiel is the Precure of Spirit, Kiranji is what?
Wisdom,
Wisdom, and then Etoile is courage.
Strength. Yeah, it's just strength.
Strength.
She's
So yeah, but with Emiru and Lulu, they are Mashiri and Amor, the Precure of love. They are a singular, like, they are the Precure of love together.
And it's so cute. Like, like I said, like, they transform together, and like. Okay, to be fair, like, some Precure seasons have done that before, obviously, with other duos. But, like, just the concept of, like, when you get to wear your pretty little outfits, but, like, you get to wear your pretty little outfits at the same time as, like, you're holding hands with your best friend, and they also get to put on a pretty little outfit. Like, okay, how do you make that more precious? You don't.
You can't. No, it's... And speaking of things that are precious and kind of gay, we need to talk about the gays.
The gays! Okay, the gay agenda.
Because,
Hugtto Precure had a secret gay agenda, and it was amazing.
Yeah, no, this, like, the way these characters are developed are so delightful because they're introduced separately, and their relationship is something that is developed in the background of the series. To the point to where you could say, like, oh, well, you're just inferring that they're gay. Until you get to the end, and it is so goddamn blatant that these guys are so fucking gay for each other, and that they are clearly a goddamn couple, that you cannot argue it.
And it's not even that they're gay, it's also like, Henry is also like the best, like, gender fluid guy ever, and then they're also gay. Okay, alright, I was probably, okay. To begin this actual story, so Henry is this character who's basically introduced as almost like Komare's friend / skating partner / almost kind of rival, and he's a bit sort of blunt with his words. And there's also, like, just a random point in the episode where they're just trying on things, and then, like, he's just wears something, and then they mention, like, that's women's clothes, and he's like, oh, well, I mean, if it suits me, I guess that's fine. And, like, the characters are totally like, yeah, no, that's so cool, you look great, you look like a goddess or something. And, like, they're totally fine with that. And then, like, after that, he sort of joins the cast, he sort of figures out who the Precure are, and he sort of joins the cast, and he's basically just, like, he's this kind of just, like, gender fluid guy, essentially, because, like, he's, like, fine with wearing women's clothing. He, like, wears his tie in the school uniform up with a little bow, and, like, he's just, like, he's great, and then he, like...
Yeah, no, he is. He's so kind of, like, snarky and catty, whenever people try to give him shit. He just doesn't give a fuck, and he just does his own thing, and he does not let other people tell him how he should dress and how he should present himself. And because this is where Emiru's brother comes into play. Masato, correct?
Yeah, Masato.
Yeah, so Emiru's brother Masato comes into, like, in the Emiru episodes is where he's first introduced. But then he comes in one of Henry's returning episodes being like, why are you dressed like this? What's up with that? Blah, blah, blah. He's basically gay shaming him is what he's doing. And, like, when Masato tries to, like, confront him, he's just like, look, this is me. I'm going to dress the way I want, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And just shuts him the fuck down. It's great. And then we end up getting a scene where Henry is in danger, and one of my favorite lines, where Curiel says, or no, he says, like, oh, you're gonna have to, like, looks like the Precure gonna have to rescue me, or gonna have to rescue the princess. And they're like, that's okay, boys can be princesses too. And it was just
I think
good.
What's great about this, like I said, this is a children's show. This is a show for kids. Like,
yeah.
And they just, like, you know, because of that, they just go out and just frankly say, hey, it's okay, boys can be princesses too. They just say it to all of the boys and girls watching there without any hesitation, without any sort of like, oh, but we don't want to offend people's traditional gender values. No, they're just like, no, screw it. And also, like, in that episode...
It is okay for boys to be princesses. It's okay for boys to wear girls' clothing. It is okay to express your gender in any way that you feel like, and you should not be shamed for it. Like, this series, like, really leans into it. And
it's, like, also, like, in that episode, Masato is the one who ends up becoming the, like, monster of the week.
Yes.
And Henry is basically the one who realizes that, oh, right, like, Masato was the one who was basically hurting as well from seeing Henry like this. And it's basically, like Henry sort of, like, Henry's the one who does the hug on evil monster Masato, and is basically just like, you know, I'm not, but like, I understand you're hurt, but like, I'm not going to change who I am. And like, you know, maybe you could sort of learn to sort of be more honest with yourself too.
Which, oh my god, where that ends up going.
Yeah, because then it turns out that like, basically from that point onwards, like they kind of reconcile, and then from that point onwards, it's sort of like they're just totally gay. Like, they're both gay.
Yeah, no, it is...
Turns out Masato was gay the whole time.
Yeah, it seems like, because you figure out by, like, his distress over Henry being so open with his gender expression and just, well, I mean, being kind of gay, is because Masato himself is clearly gay, and it upsets him that he can't be, like, you know, because, I mean, he already had to deal with his sister going against gender norms, or what he felt, because he already established very early on that he believes in very traditional gender norms, regardless of what, you know, like, you need to adhere to what society says you need to be, regardless of what your feelings are on it. So he tries to put Emiru in a box, he tries to put Henry in a box, and both of those kind of blow up in his face, and like, it's upsetting to him because it's making him have to, like, come to terms with his hang-ups that he's had.
Yeah, basically, like, what he actually thinks, what he actually feels, which he's never had to think about before, because it is just mostly just been, you know, everything sort of been planned out ahead of him. He just does what society says, and he's never really thought to question himself at all until Henry showed up.
And then we have, like, the festival episode, where we really get the first good, clear hint that, oh, are they gay? Are they a couple?
That's
oh my god,
so
is that why? Oh, that's why he was so upset with himself. And you start putting the pieces together.
And, like, let's put it this way,
because,
I could totally believe that this was not something that they had thought out from the beginning, and it was just like after that episode, they're just like, what if it was because Masato was gay the whole time?
Right? Yeah, no, like, I'm really curious.
It could have totally been that. It could have totally been that because, I mean, I think there was, like, someone saying, like, they haven't necessarily planned out everything from the very beginning.
Right.
But at the same time, it works so well, it's like, yeah, no, I believe it.
And the thing is, though, like it's really weird to think that they don't plan these things out that well in advance, because so many elements of this show have payoff.
Oh, like, yes. Some things are, but, like, there are also parts of it where you're like, okay, I think they had some slightly different plans at the beginning than what ended up being at the end. It's just not too drastic.
Right.
Like, the themes are all the same, but, like, the minor details are probably weren't necessarily worked out.
I feel like a lot of that is with the villains and how some of that stuff ended up panning out by the end. Like, it's just like they didn't quite congeal quite as well as it may have could have.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, with stuff like with like, very specifically, with Masato and Henry, though. Because, like, you see them together, and it's like, wait a second, are these two a couple? Which, by the way, Henry is in, like, I mean, well, they're both in kimonos, but, like, Henry's, like, you can very clearly see he's wearing, like, a dress underneath it, like a frilled, like, with, like, a frilled white collar underneath his kimono, and it's really cute. So I just love that little detail. It was super adorable. And then you have, just, every time Henry shows up, he's doing, you know, it's usually something skating focused, and Masato is always there at all of his shows, always being his emotional support, And Henry starts having, like, okay, first off, Henry is dealing with an injury, which is causing him, it's going to end his career. Like, and he knows it. And he just wants to stay in it long enough to get to, like, one big final show, and then he can finally just call it quits. Because, what was it? Was it his ankle was bad?
It was some, like, they didn't really have the specifics. It was just more like, he just had an injury that was eventually going to...
Yeah, like, there was some leg or foot or knee injury that he had sustained, and he didn't treat it soon enough. He ignored it, and it's just progressed to the point to where it is going to end his career. So he's dealing with that, like, the fact that, like, his goals for his future are now just not going to be a reality. Also, he's clearly dealing with some gender dysphoria because, like, he gets upset with the idea of puberty. Like, he's like, my voice is deepening, like, I'm going to start growing facial hair, like, like, he's going to start physically changing, and he won't be able to look as effeminate in his girl clothes, basically, like, in his dresses and stuff. He won't be able to look like as cute and elegant as he would want to because of puberty changing his body physically. And something that I really love as a touch is that Henry from that episode forward does have a deeper voice, because Henry hadn't shown up for a few episodes, and when he comes back, he had a deeper voice to the point to where I thought he had actually been recast. And then it actually became a plot point where, like, oh no, he's like genuinely, this is just puberty, and he's genuinely upset over this reality. And so that becomes a thing. The villains kind of start trying to court him over to their side, and
then he gets into a car crash.
Yeah, he gets into a goddamn car. And the thing is, though, like, this whole arc with Henry, it's a slow burn. We establish this, and then we go several episodes before we actually get the payoff on
It's like, because, like, a thing, Henry is, like, he's not necessarily a main character. He's not really, like, a member of the main Precure cast. Like, he's just like, often there for a random time if they're just, like, at a random place for a random episode. And sometimes, like, basically you just realize that actually, no, his subplot was progressing the whole time.
Yeah.
And you just didn't think about it. You thought it was just, like, something they just put into pad in some time, but it was like, no. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. And, like, everything kind of comes full circle with Henry, his injuries, the villains trying to court him over to their side, his relationship with Masato, like, just his dynamic with the Precure. Just all of that actually does come full circle and pay off. And yeah, no, it's glorious. And then we get into, like, the finale where they pay off on it even more, and then we get the epilogue.
They're just gay. It's just beautiful gay.
Like, in the epilogue, it is great because you have Henry, like, he's basically, like, running his own ice skating show, like, because it jumps into the future. And Henry's basically running his own kind of ice skating show. And, he goes and, like, blows a kiss, and Masato catches the kiss, and Masato's parents are in the background behind him making little heart gestures because, they're there to support clearly their son-in-law. And it is... It's adorable.
The best. Like I said,
it's the best. Their relationship
it is basically
is just the
a subplot,
love it.
I mean, it's one of the biggest subplots in the series, and it's amazing. It's great because also, like, this is Japan, land of very conservative values, and we just had a story in a children's show about a gay couple, basically.
Like, you're not even allowed to be married. Gay marriage isn't even allowed in Japan, so to be so openly gay in this show, like, really pushing the boundaries of what they are allowed to do with this kids medium was really nice. Because, like, the only thing else I could think of that was that up front with is, like, stuff like, like Sailor Moon with, Uranus and Neptune. Like, they were very, very open, but also that was the 90s, different standards.
Yeah, and, like, it's a bit different. And, like I said, Precure has done kind of sort of a bit maybe this is sort of lesbian, like, especially the season before this Kira Precure mode had had two characters who were kind of based on Haruka and Michiru from Sailor Moon, and it was sort of also like, oh, they're kind of a lesbian couple. But yeah, it's like, okay, I know some people might be like, why are you're spending so long just talking about this random gay couple subplot? But it's like, it's important for what it means in a show like this. So the fact that, like, literally a children's show, it is for children, and not just for like, for like 12-year-olds, like, like 3-4-year-old girls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the target demographics who are going to be watching this. So to see something like that is obviously really important, and it's great, and I feel like it needs to be mentioned, because even though it's not the most important part of the show, it's a part of the show that it's really great that it's in there.
Yeah, and like it's just done so well, like, because, and the fact that, like, that their relationship really kind of builds off of like one character's kind of internal self-hatred of his clear homosexuality, like, and that's kind of what, and it's one character opening up his eyes to like this self-acceptance, and like that's where their romance kind of blossoms from.
Basically, it's like he's opening himself up to who he wants to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the theme of the series, and it's, you can be anything, you can do anything, you can be a total gay if you want to, and that's fine.
Yeah, and like, yeah, once again, like it does tie into the themes of the series of, becoming your best self, of like, moving towards the future and being what you want to be. And so once again, like, everything in this show constantly just kind of winds back into the ideas of like the themes of the show. Like, even its subplots, even its characters, it's great. Also, Henry gets to be a boy Precure, and it's amazing, and he's fabulous.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, no, it was great. So yeah,
it's precious.
So yeah, like you had the gays. The villains themselves are all really great characters. Like that, they're all fun. Like I said, like all of them get like rehabilitated basically, and they are just like, and one of them actually, like, for an episode, because he feels like such a failure, like, of like, trying to, be a success as a good guy, like, he feels underappreciated. He actually switches sides and becomes a villain for an episode. And then,
and he gets his ass kicked because he's equally as incompetent.
Yeah,
but
and he gets reprimanded for it, and it's like, fine.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry.
it wasn't like, but like, yeah, it wasn't even in a, like, oh, this is a terrible, terrible thing way. It was like, because it was basically like he was trying to make these like cake pops for people at like a Halloween festival, and he wasn't very good at them. And then it's like when one of the other former villains realizes what was going on, and then she's just like, "You idiot! Like, the kids loved it anyway. Didn't matter that it wasn't perfect. Like, it was fine."
Yeah, and oh man, yeah, no, the characters are all good. Like I said, like you had the one villain who deals with like unrequited love. You have another villain who I'm trying to remember like what the other chick's thing was. Like, she didn't want to age because she wanted to be beautiful forever.
Yeah, it was something like that. I want to be beautiful forever. And then there was the first villain who's basically almost just like a newbie to the ranks, and he's like just trying to be part of this evil business thing.
Yeah.
And then, oh god, can we talk about what's amazing about him is like he's like the first villain in like, he basically just shows up when the character's just getting introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like sort of like the first to get sort of defeated.
Yep.
And he gets he basically gets purified after sort of talking about how he's thinking about he's such a failure. And then Hana basically comforting him and being like, it's okay, I have those feelings too. You just gotta keep them close to you. And, after that, he goes and he decides to follow his dream of becoming a YouTuber. And he has like 26 subscribers. And I love him.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is great the fact that like he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be like web famous and stuff, and he'll always talk about his 23 subscribers or followers or whatever, and it's great. He's
relatable.
Yeah,
Hashtag
once again,
relatable.
as YouTubers, we can totally empathize with that, and it's great stuff. It's so good. Like, I love the villains. The main villain. Oh my goodness! Like, his whole storyline.
He is interesting.
Yeah, no, like, he is very interesting, and like, I like how he's introduced. I like how he's revealed as the villain. I really like his motivations, and this is kind of like one of the things where I kind of wish that they had stuck the landing a little bit better, because I feel like they kept things just a little too vague with him.
Yeah, it was like it was one of those things where it's like I was a bit confused. It was like I was thought that maybe this was something that they hadn't planned from the beginning, or maybe they had, but like they didn't necessarily know how far they were going to go with it, because like basically what seems to be the case is like he was his spoilers for the end of the series, but they don't ever go.
This is the big spoilers, like big plot spoilers. Dip out now before it's too late if you don't want to get spoiled.
Yeah, but okay. The big spoiler is it seems like he's actually the husband of Hana in an alternate future, and in that future she died for some reason, and then he basically lost hope of the world and everything. Also, conveniently, it was also the apocalypse of everybody, basically everyone's misery causing time to stop, which would also happen in the future. And basically, he's just deciding he's going to try and... Well, basically, he's going to try and stop time in the past as well, pretty much so Hana can be happy.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to experience.
Yeah, so Hana will never die, and Hana can live forever, and, be, at her happiness.
Exactly. It's, not necessarily, live with him, but more just, so that she can be happy, so she doesn't have to suffer.
Yeah, like he doesn't want to lose her, he doesn't want her to suffer, and... So it's, once again, #relatable. The mere fact that, literally the villain is doing all of his evil acts in the name of protecting the life and the happiness of our heroine, that's some wild shit when you think about it. Holy fuck.
It's pretty messed up. And, the fact is there are, but, the fact is, it makes me think that there was some idea about it, because there's all these just scenes where it's just, he's just, looking at her and talking to her in these very vague, weird ways, and you're just sort of there's clearly something more going on than him just being some dude who's showing up. And he's always just, watching her and just seeing what she's going to do. And it's I don't know if this was their idea from the beginning, but it's an interesting idea. And it's very fascinating. And the fact that it's basically just all resolved by basically her explaining to him that she's going to deal with what's going on.
Yeah.
Even if things are painful, even if, times are rough, she's going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because it's even if despair is always going to be there, hope will be there as well.
Yeah, and it's basically just, well, she's Curiel. She's the cheerleader. She literally just, spreads positivity to this guy. Just look, I will deal with this shit when it comes at me. But, there's always going to be good stuff, too. And
yeah, so that, it's a bit vague in that, we don't know if that means that
it's
also...
very abstract.
We don't even know if Hana is actually destined to die tragically in some alternate future, because, also, we get to see the future, and, the future's slightly different to the future that we see earlier on in the series, so it's do they make a new timeline or something, so maybe she will be happy.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, and it's it's maybe this is supposed to be obscure, maybe they just didn't want to make it...
Yeah, no, it's very ambiguous in the way that they portray it, which I think is... Which, that has to be intentional. Even, the way that they portray, Hana's husband, the main villain, when he's younger.
Yeah, they don't show that it's him.
They very specifically don't show his face.
But then it's they also have, he's got, the bouquet of flowers, and the flowers are the same flowers that he offers her in one of the other later episodes.
Fuck, I didn't even notice that. God, this series is
I saw
smart.
that on Twitter. The last episode is just... they have this finale epilogue episode after they basically save the world from basically Hana's husband who's distraught with grief, where she basically just convinces him to believe in the future again and to move on, basically. To basically move on from her own death, which that might be the plot, which is kind of really weird and dark. And like I said, it's very... They don't explain it full on. Where they do explain other things full on, they don't explain this, but it's an interesting story. It's the fact that it's basically just this, this is not a story that it just gets hijacked at the end by the embodiment of despair. It's one dude. It's basically just one dude who wants to stop time in the past, who wants everyone to live in eternal happiness, and he just gathers all these other people, some who are just joining for the money and some who are joining because they also have their own reasons to kind of want to stop time. And it's like they just do it, and then like Hana just basically talks him out, punches him out, and then they, everybody, like, the combined positivity of everyone in the world defeats his final rage form, and then she's like, God, like, I love the final words at the end where it's just Hana and the main villain. They're just sitting there in the, like, crumbling complex of where his headquarters used to be. And then she's just like, let's go. And he's like, where? And she's like, to the future. And he's like, that's impossible. I don't believe in the future. And then she's just like, well, if you don't believe in the future, then why do you always tell me, see you next time? And then he just like...
Oh, God, you're making me remember it. Now I'm getting all misty-eyed again.
I know. I mean, it also doesn't help that the music there was, like, so good as well, because it's just, like, this, like, I don't know what you call it. It's just, like, kind of soft angelic voices sort of doing this sort of remix of, like, one of the main themes, and it's like, okay. But, yeah, and it's just, like, yeah, he just, like, basically just kind of starts laughing and crying, and he's just like, yeah, you really are a lovely lady, and then he just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's a very... God, like, I actually like, now that I'm thinking about it, like, I think I love it more for just how ambiguous it is. Like, it would have been cool if they had...
I prefer it for that also.
Yeah, like, it would have been cool if they had a literal, like, no, I'm doing this for you, Hana, and Hana is, like, literally like, no, I'm not, I don't care if what's gonna happen to the future. But, like, no, the fact that they just, like, do kind of have this sort of, like, you don't even really know what's happening, like, you don't really know what happened to him, you don't really know what exactly she means to him.
Yeah.
And what her words mean to him. But it's, like, it's very adult. Let's put it that way. It's a very adult ending.
Yeah, it's, like, once again, like, the complex feels and themes and narrative of Hugtto Precure of all fucking things.
Of like, this show about selling toys to little girls has this really emotionally resonant final episode, like, well, not final episode, like final battle where, like, things are very subtle and you don't really know for sure.
Right.
And then they have a final episode where they do, like, the stuff that they were paying off from the very beginning, where Harry and Hugtto and Lulu do have to go back to the future, and they do say goodbye.
Oh my God!
Because, like, that was something that was sort of underlying, like, the final like arc of the series, where they're just like, oh yeah, well, since we're from the future, if we save the world at the end of the day, we're going to have to go back to the future and leave you all. And lots of like
they didn't cop out on that at all.
Yeah, exactly. Unless a show would cop out on that and say, oh, it's okay, they decided that they're able to stay, or whatever.
Well, they can go back and forth.
They leave.
No, they're gone.
Yeah.
They are gone for the rest of those characters' lives. Like, we flash forward...
Well, not necessarily, as in...
Well, like Hugtto...
Kind of, but not really, because, like, they're from the future.
So, like, they end up reuniting.
So they do end up existing. But, like, not in the same way. They're not necessarily the same characters, but they're not. God damn it, that ending with Emiru and Lulu. Oh my God, if you do not cry, you do not have a heart. Because, I thought they were gonna, like, I predicted they were gonna do something like that. Like, I thought they were totally gonna do something where they're gonna have the reverse, where Emiru is the older one and Lulu is, like, the little baby thing.
Okay, well, you're smarter than I am, because I wasn't expecting that, so when it did that, I was just like, oh.
Well, okay, see, like, what I thought they were gonna do was, like, if they weren't, without this multiverse thing, was, like, if they go to the future, and then it cuts to them in the future, and as they arrive in the future, like, the adult versions of everyone's waiting for them, because it's, like, the future.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, that would have been powerful as well, but this one is, like, it's kind of more powerful because it's not the same. Like, it's not all neatly wrapped up, because they're not necessarily the same characters.
Because they're not getting exactly what they wanted the way they wanted it.
But it's, like, slightly different.
Like Hugtto is born, but it's not necessarily the same Hugtto.
No, it's definitely it's literally not the same Hugtto. Like, the Hugtto in the show had this, like, was like, I don't even know how old she was, but, like, she was a character. She was grown up, basically. She was a Precure as well, and then, like, her using her powers to bring Harry into the past, like, also as a side effect turned her into a baby. So obviously they're very different characters, and you know, and like, yeah, it's the same when it's like, God, like with Emiru and Lulu, where it's basically just like, it's almost like Emiru was just missed Lulu so much that, like, you know, she found out about Dr. Trump and just sort of like was following the research of him making Lulu so that, like, when she's born, she can see her best friend again, even though it's
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, like she found Lulu's creator, her father, because, you know, she had met him from, you know, the future version of himself.
Oh, and the future version of himself is such a good character. I never got to talk about him. He's the best.
Yeah, no, like as a villain, he's hilarious, and just everything he does is just so goddamn entertaining. And then, like, just on top of that,
like once he gets redeemed, you just realize he's just got so many elements. Like, he's actually really subtle about this whole thing. And, like, there've been points where it's sort of like you could tell he sort of knew a bit more about this whole, like, he wasn't one-dimensionally evil and he sort of had other reasons for doing this. But it's like, once he gets redeemed, he's basically just like, yeah, like, you know, I thought that maybe you guys would be able to beat him, but I wasn't sure. And, you know, like, I you know, I didn't really want this to happen, but I kind of did, and, you know, like, God, like, you know, okay, so there's that point where, like, the episode with, like, Harry's backstory, and then, you know, his freaking hamster village is burning down, and then he's just like, why, we did everything that they asked us, why? And then, like, Dr. Traum comes in, he's just like, sometimes things don't work out the way you wish for them, even if you really try.
Yeah, no, it's, like, once again, very mature themes rolling through this series, and
like, okay, I think the fact that this is just a kids show and they don't actually go all the way, but, like, you know, they still kind of try, like, I feel like this is such a great combination because, like, it can still keep the optimism. It doesn't say, you know, this is a show for an adult, so, you know, happy endings are stupid and cliche and you can't do them. No, they're like, they say, no, we're gonna give you our happy endings, even though, like, lots of kind of terrible, dark shit happens, but there can still be happy endings, like in children's shows.
Like this show...
Like, it's such a beautiful combination. Like, we don't get shows like that.
And the mere fact that, like, it really pushes the boundaries of what you can do with a kids show, and you strike a really interesting balance with its narrative, because you have something that is so emotionally genuine, like, in all of its sweet, kind of saccharine elements, but at the same time, it does not want to, like, obscure you from the darker elements of life. Yes, you are going to lose people. Yes, you are going to make friendships, and those friendships are going to be pulled apart from you. Yes, sometimes your goals in life, things will happen to you that will completely stop them for you, and you are going to have to find a new path. Sometimes the path that you're on isn't what you actually wanted, and you'll find something else that actually does, like, inspire you to want to do great things. There's so much packed into this goddamn series.
Yeah, of, like, 49 episodes. It's great.
So, okay, so because you brought up Dr. Tram, I want to make a quick little aside. Yeah. Okay, so you remember when Dr. Tram had the robot that could, like, turn back time slightly, and it would, like, repair its own damage, and he, like, and then he winds it back so far that he wound it back to before it was built, so it just falls apart. Okay, that gag is great. Fun fact, the most recent Gundam movie did that seriously. I shit you not. Like they were talking about some crazy ass, because at this point new types in Gundam have become fucking space wizards.
I see.
And they were talking about and they were talking about, like, from the previous series, like, this crazy event that had happened in, like, the series prior to it. They're like, oh yeah, like the Psycho Frame, like, you know, it like encapsulated all these mobile suits, and, like, all of the internal parts were taken apart. It's as if time was reversed to before they were assembled. And I fucking laughed my ass off because I immediately fucking thought of Hugtto Precure when they did it as a joke.
Oh my god! Oh.
Like, I mean, it is a cool thing. Like in the concept of Gundam, like, that was, like, some really far out there shit.
Yeah, but then you just thought about this children's show doing it as a joke.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
it was really good.
All right. Speaking of those episodes, okay. So there were crossovers. There were crossovers in this, and okay, they are at the same time the strongest and weakest parts of the show at the same time. Because if you are a Pretty Cure fan, these episodes are just fan service galore. There are 3 of them. One of them is where. And they're also plot relevant, so you can't skip them, which is the issue.
You can't. Important
You cannot skip
happens in
them.
these.
Yeah, because important stuff happens in these. Like, these characters get, like, power-ups and stuff, and you can't explain where they come from, other than just, like, oh, and then they met these other Pretty Cure, and that's where they got their power-ups. But, yeah, if you don't know any much about Pretty Cure, like Sion did, you are going to be confused and upset and feeling like this breaks the pace of everything. And even if you do like Pretty Cure and you do like these crossovers, you might think it breaks the pace of everything. At the same time, these crossovers are the best. Like, oh my god.
No, they were dope. They were super fucking dope.
The first one with Black and White, and like, it was cute enough. It was like sort of, you know, them as the duo, talking to Emiru and Lulu as the duo, and you know, then you got to see Black and White in action, and it was completely hardcore and awesome. I loved it because Xion got to be introduced to how they fight, and it's fucking brilliant.
It is. It was pretty great.
Then they do a 2-parter crossover thing with everyone, basically a Pretty Cure All Stars movie to pretty much promote the new Pretty Cure All Stars movie thing, which is also the Hugtto Pretty Cure movie, which was coming out in cinemas at that time. But it's awesome because it's just it's 2 episodes of just full on fan service, and like the first episode is a bit. Oh, it's just sort of all right. There are just some random Pretty Cure that they choose, some like recent teams, and like one from like Yes Pretty Cure 5 and one from Fresh, like from once a few years ago. But then the second episode, they just go completely full on, balls to the wall. Okay, you know what? And like at the end, we're going to have a fight with all of them. Every Pretty Cure. They don't get all of the voice actors, so a lot of them don't speak, but like they do a thing. They literally do like this battle royale essentially with like all like over like 50 Pretty Cure from the last 15 years with just a bunch of generic grunts, and like in the fight, like everything that the characters, like some of the characters are doing is like a callback or a fan service thing, or like combining the characters who are quite similar together and having them team up, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And then it all culminates in this like 50-second continual no stops beautiful piece of animation animated by this one guy, Nishiki Itaoka, who does like a lot of the like really cool Pretty Cure stuff, of just like all of the like team leader Pretty Cure just like all doing like one of their most memorable attacks, and like just all just all like one after another consecutively hitting this one bad guy and leading to Yell using her big pretty much like now iconic thing where she just like takes out her pom-poms and does like this, just like, I don't know what you call it. She like spins around, just like does like a, what do you call it? Like an axe hand or something like that?
I don't know what you would call it, but yeah, she just like smashes into them with her hands and just with her pom-poms.
Yeah, just smashes them with her pom-poms.
And just fucks them up.
And it is like the, like if you're a Pretty Cure episode, like you just scream because it's amazing, because everything is fan service and is a reference. And God, they even do a thing at the end where it's like they're just, everybody's cheering them on, but it's like not just the other Pretty Cure and the mascots, but also like almost every single one of like significant supporting characters who end up kind of joining the Pretty Cure side in all of the seasons, and they just show up, all of them, except for Seiji from Happiness Charge, but everyone else. It's ridiculous.
The whole thing was awesome. One of my favorite moments in that is, because I already knew that this was like an iconic shot where you have Cure Black and White like coming out of like the explosion of smoke, and they're doing like that iconic thing that they did, and then it like backs up and like it shows like 40 other like or not like 40, but like it shows like all the like pink Precures, all the team leaders, like also in the explosion, and it's great. Like that was a super cool shot.
Yeah, all the team leaders. Yeah, it's all the team leaders. Yeah, they've done that fan service shot a few times in some of the Precure movies, but yeah, they've done that. They've done that fan service shot a few times in the Precure movies. There's also another one that's pretty iconic where it's pure black and white, sort of spitting onto like a railing in midair, and then just sort of like, I don't know, but they didn't do that shot, but they did a whole bunch of other shots. And like the other thing is like the funny thing about that episode is like it kind of didn't have many animators. So what they literally did to do some of this fan service was literally take the animation from the older series and just paste it in. And in some places it's obvious, in some places it's not obvious, and then you just realize, oh my god, they really just went through like 15 years of footage to try and find these specific cuts of animation to put into one episode, and it's actually kind of insane.
Yeah, no, and a lot of it is fairly seamless. I think like the most obvious and jarring is going to be stuff with like pure black and white, where it's just like, oof, oh, that's SD.
Oh yeah, like the transformation sequence, yeah, because because it was from a show like, you know, footage from like 2005. So
it's like, come on, guys, just fucking reanimate it if you're gonna keep using it.
Okay, they did reanimate it in the movie, in the All Stars movie thing.
Yeah, it's like, fucking use that, damn.
Well, that wasn't being finished yet, so fair enough. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
it is still super dope. All of that was just a blast. Like even someone like coming in. Like, I had surface-level knowledge of Precure. I knew who the first two Precure were. Gaby had already talked to me about it. And honestly, like, I had already, like when I was about 10 episodes into Precure, I started, like, researching Precure, like, just on my own. Just because I wanted to know more about the franchise in general. So, like, I had, like tangential knowledge of all of these other shows and these characters and some of their themes. But yeah, I was still super goddamn confused because I didn't know the specifics, and then they like referenced things from like a fucking movie that never actually got fan subs, so I didn't know how that.
Well, yeah, because it's like they act like, because like there's always like these all-star movies that just like randomly show up where it's like the assumption is just the pretty girl from that season just get whisked away at some point during the beginning of their season to have a crossover with some of the other girls from some new threats, and so that's how they all know each other. But like, and then it's like, you know, some of the older ones like don't know the very old ones because their All Stars movies were like the last 3 seasons, and I don't know, you know, like trying to act like those are canon to the main story is stupid, and it would probably upset anybody who thinks that there's some kind of actual timeline for this thing. But who cares? It's cute.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was super cool. Like, I was constantly going, what the fuck is this? Why the fuck is this? What is happening?
And I still need to give you my rundown on everything that happens in those episodes, right, so you can no longer get confused.
Yeah, no, it was a lot to take in, but it was also super cool. Like, I loved watching it. It was a lot of fun. I fucking love the Futariwa Precure theme, and every time they use it for battles and shit, because it's super goddamn cool and hype as shit.
It is pretty hype as
shit. And so yeah, going from things that are super hype to things that are not hype, things that made us sad and made us cry a lot. The last goddamn 10 episodes of this show doesn't fuck around emotionally, and just keeps punching you in the heart every fucking time.
Like I said, it's the culmination of everybody's character arcs.
Yeah.
So everybody's character arcs just lead to big emotional moments where everyone cries and hugs, and there's a lot of crying and hugging basically in those episodes from all the characters.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got like the first one is like Lulu reconciling with her
father. Yeah.
Robot dad.
Like Lulu with her creator as her father.
And then, oh god, I think there was like one point in the episode, in that thing, which I think just perfectly summed up me watching that show, where it's like she basically takes out her guitar and she's like, I'm gonna sing you the song that Emiru made about being friends and stuff, and he's just and Dr. Trump's just like, stop it, you're gonna make me cry, and she's just like, shut up and listen, and I'm like, yep, that's me. It's me.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and then so you got that, and then immediately after, I mean, okay, even before that, you have the stuff with like Harry's backstory and how he's like he's thinking about giving up, and like the other hamster Listo, who's like one of the other hamsters who's also a bad guy, and he was like joined the villains because he decided he thought there was no point fighting against hopeless odds because like they're not strong enough, and then like Hannah's like telling them to not give up, and then like they get a power up and whatever.
Yeah, can I just take a moment to say that like the backstory with the hamsters is like really emotional and like emotionally upsetting and just holy fuck, why are these like fucking Hamtaro knockoffs like making me feel complex feelings?
Because this is Hugtto Precure and it doesn't mess around.
Right? Yeah, no, it just fucking goes. Like you were saying though, it's so many character arcs being fleshed out and culminated on. You have like you talk about like Harry.
You've got all those. So you've got Harry, you've got the Lulu stuff. Yeah, then you've got Emiru realizing that Lulu has to go to the future, and like her being just like being completely distraught over it, and that also gets your feels. And then you have
I think Homare, like confessing her feelings.
Exactly, confessing her feelings, getting rejected, and realizing that unrequited love is okay.
Yeah,
and that she's going to accept those feelings. Yeah, and you've got that Henry episode in the middle of that somewhere as well. Henry gets his culmination, and then I think at that point, there's the Christmas episode.
Oh yeah, no, that Christmas episode was fucked up.
The Christmas episode that's mostly fun, but then like there's a moment between like Lulu and Dr. Traum at the end, and you're like, damn it, I thought like I was gonna have an episode without crying.
That one was legitimately fucked up because I'm like, okay, thank God, I'm gonna have a nice, fun, wholesome Christmas episode, and nothing's gonna make me cry. Oh no, I'm crying. Oh no, Lulu, why'd you have to go and do this? No, it just like every fucking episode. Like the only episodes that didn't really emotionally fuck me up was like, cause like the finale is like a 4-parter. Well, it's like a 3-parter and then an epilogue. But like the first 2 episodes of that of the finale, because it's like setting up the finale and then building up to the climax and then the climax. Those first 2 episodes, I'm like, okay, nothing too big and emotional happened there because that's like all the setup.
Yeah, although all the adults showing up and then like Pablo being like, adults can do anything, we can be anything, and like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Adults to the rescue.
But that's like more triumphant than it is emotional. Yeah, that's
triumphant, yeah.
But then like, Hana and just all the complex emotional feelings that happen between her and the main villain, and just because of their whole relationship dynamics that have been kind of expanded on or expounded on by this point in the series, and it's just like that hit me like a ton of bricks. And then all the episodes leading up to the finale just hit me with a ton of bricks. And then the epilogue, the fucking epilogue, where you're thinking, okay, the show's almost over. Time jump, Hana's pregnant, she's giving birth to Hugtto. Fucking Saya is now a nurse or a doctor like she always wanted to be. And she,
oh god,
and she like she gives birth.
Exactly.
And then like the villain of the series, who's her husband, is like has like the flowers. And he's trying to get to the hospital to see his wife and his newborn child, and then like Hana and Hugtto are in a way reunited. Also, that's also where Emiru gets reunited with like little Lulu.
And little Lulu is the most adorable thing in existence. Oh my god! How do you make anything cuter than like a cute android girl with purple hair? Like a cute android girl with purple hair who also looks like she's like 10.
Yeah, no, it was adorable. And it was the sweetest thing ever. Like, and then also, you also kind of get that kind of bittersweetness of, well, oh no, like, her and that guy got together, she did give birth to Hugtto.
Is future gonna repeat itself? But you don't know.
You don't.
And it's like it's such a weird ending. But I actually do kind of I think I'm appreciating it more and more now.
Yeah.
For just kind of the sheer audacity they did.
Yeah, no, they did. They left it open to interpretation. And usually I'm not like a big fan of the kind of vaguer endings and stuff, but this is like one that really worked because like one of the ideas is that like the future can hold anything for you, so no, it's not gonna fucking answer the questions for you.
No,
Like it's just
and God, and
like
then
the future is
like, okay,
uncertain, just like their future is uncertain, and it would kind of be a disservice to the themes if they just fucking told you everything. It was gonna be okay.
that's true. And
I
like,
love
God,
it.
then you know, like the final part where it's just like, you know, the opening theme is playing while Hannah is narrating while she's also giving birth, but like, you know, her character's also narrating about, you know, how it's going to be, you know, sometimes, you know, life is terrible and, you know, things happen, but then I just think about my times of this as a child, and then it cuts like her sister is like teaching people to do cheerleading, and they're doing cheerleading in the same sort of way that she does, and does like sort of doing her cheers, and then she's like, you know, just remembering those words, like, oh God, it's such a good ending.
Yeah, no, it
such
is.
a good show.
It is. Like, they do it so well. I loved so much of this, and like I am so appreciative that like you introduced me to this series, and the fact that like the first Precure that you got me into just skyrocketed to like the top of my because thinking about it, especially
like, I didn't even, like I said,
yeah, no,
I
you
didn't
had no
even
clue.
know. I didn't even know it was going to remain this consistently
you were like
good.
Here's a
like,
good
I was
episode.
worried that it wasn't going to keep the momentum up until the second half, and like, yeah, after the second half, like after around, but by the second half, it kind of like there's a lot of episodes where not much happens, and I'm like, oh no, it's going to go down the shit. But then like, eventually, like the last stretch is just so good that it's like,
no,
it
like
doesn't
because I was
even
sitting there
matter.
thinking about like comparing us to Sailor Moon Super, or comparing it to Cardcaptor Sakura, and when I think about like those shows, it's like, okay, like those shows do not get as anywhere near as emotionally complex. Okay, Cardcaptor Sakura gets emotionally complex here and there, but nowhere near as often.
Yeah, not as consistently, like for everyone.
Like how it wraps up, like the culmination of like all the character arcs. Like they're satisfying, but they're not like really impactful. It's like, okay, cool. Like we wrapped up this character, we wrapped up this character. Here it's just like they like, oh, we've wrapped up this character, and we're gonna end it on a big emotional beat. You're gonna cry your fucking eyes out, and you're going to feel every ounce of emotion.
And the character's going to cry their fucking eyes out.
Like
that's
the
thing.
character's going to cry, and
like
you're going to cry because you care about them.
They're not afraid to have these characters start crying. Exactly. And it's
like, it's really weird because, like, okay, there's actually a big emotional beat in Cardcaptor Sakura, and it's funny because it's actually filler. Like, it's a like the biggest emotional episode in it is a filler episode, and it kind of had to exist because of how they had established this character in filler. So they had to kind of like wrap up their character arc. So like when they do, it's this big emotional moment.
Right.
And yeah, and I was just like that made me bawl my eyes out, but like that's like the one time. Like the rest of the series is fairly cute and fairly just, you know, like it's great world building, great characters, great concepts. The individual stories are very well executed. The animation is gorgeous. The music is amazing. Like Cardcaptor Sakura, in terms of its execution and presentation, is like a 10 out of 10. Hugtto Precure, its execution is like a 10 out of 10, but like what it's executing on is on just a so much higher level. But then you have the presentation is nowhere near as good because it is a ongoing series.
Yeah, like it, you know, some episode, yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, some episodes don't look as good, and also it's just like, you know, I wish the fight scenes were like even as good as like if the fight scenes were as good as like Go Princesses or Heart Catchers, like this would be my favorite show ever. But
yeah,
it does not slack off, but it doesn't do as much in terms of that. There's not as much mini like action scenes.
Yeah, like the only
specific
thing...
like action scene highlights. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
and like, you know, when I think about like Sailor Moon Super, it's a really great story with great characters, and it's really engaging, and it does deal with some complex ideas, but at the end of the day, it is just the main villain is this embodiment of badness and shit, and where, you know, that obviously, like, Hugtto doesn't go that route. It the really fucking, doesn't. You know, literally the husband of the main character from the future.
It really doesn't go
and
that route. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, like you don't expect it. So, like, though it does have a bit of a slump in the middle where it feels like it's not making any progress, it's still the everything leading up to that point and then everything that happens after it, that slump in the middle, because those individual episodes aren't bad. It's just that,
they just don't really do much.
Yeah,
no.
but you don't feel like the story's moving forward anymore because they're just kind of like, oh, they're on summer vacation, time to dick around while they're on summer vacation. And
basically.
And honestly, it becomes like more standard magical girl fare, like what I kind of would have expected the series to be from the get-go, where everything else, though, is so stellar above it. And yeah, and also bringing up like the episodic nature of magical girl shows, one thing I really loved about the show is that it would very frequently end an episode with a tease for the next thing that was going to happen, like the next episode's, thing.
Yeah.
So, like a character would be introduced, or like a villain, or something, like there'd be something that would happen that would carry over into the next episode. And it gave the series a sense of continuity, and it gave it a sense of forward momentum. Like, you always felt like the story is moving forward, even though really it's just kind of the cheap trick of adding in a little episode stinger that's going to be a plot point in the next episode.
Even then, like, it speaks volumes because it means they know what's going to happen next.
Right.
Like, with Sailor Moon, it's just always just like, I guess next time we're going to have another Monster of the Week, and I guess it'll be, I don't know who it's going to be, but we haven't finished the story arc yet.
Right.
With Hugtto, it's very much like, they know what's going to, it shows that they know how this whole thing is structured, and it's great.
Yeah, no, like Hugtto has immediately shot up really high up on my favorite animes of all time list. Like, it's probably at least in my top 20 and probably really close to my top 10. Like, it is such a good show, and I loved so much of it, and I love the characters, and I love the story, and I love the theming, and everything about this show just makes me smile, except for the parts that make me cry.
Yeah, it makes me cry a lot. Also smile.
Yeah.
It also makes me think.
Like, God, because those
like,
last 10 episodes are such a goddamn emotional roller coaster.
And yeah, you watch them one after another.
I
so,
did.
Like, fair
I binged
enough.
them. I binged the last 10 fucking episodes.
God, I don't know how you binged them, because I was like, I watched them like week to week, and I was still just crying every time. So, but yeah, it's.
Oh, that's okay. I cried every time. I just cried a shit ton in a span of like
just, like
5 hours.
Yeah. Hugtto it's got flaws. It's not a perfectly constructed show, but it tries so hard and goes so far, like when it didn't need to. Like it just
really
has
doesn't. It's a
my
fucking little girl's
respect.
toy commercial. It doesn't need to be this good.
They don't need to try. They don't need to try. They just need to show the toys and show the toys being cool.
Yeah,
that's all they need to do.
That's it. It reminds me.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like with My Little Pony, because like My Little Pony, the series.
Yeah, it is like the My Little Pony thing.
Where it's like you guys don't need to make a show this good to sell these like plastic pony toys, but you do. Like you create this lore and these characters and these overarching stories. And like one thing that I always really appreciate about MLP is like even though it's been going on forever, they're always changing the dynamics of the series and like giving characters new character arcs. Having characters actually reach like goals that they had in like episode 1, by episode or by season 8, all of those characters have achieved their goals and are now working on expanding those goals in their lives. And like it's like, God damn it, Pony Show, you didn't need to fucking try this hard. In the exact same way, like this show goes even further beyond that. Just like the levels that it goes to with its storytelling and its character development and its themes and how well it just kind of builds everything off of itself. It didn't need to try this hard. It doesn't.
No.
And it does.
And especially comparing to other PreCast seasons that don't try this hard. That do play the very safe and familiar routes. But obviously this one, they're like, it's right, like I said, this is the show where it was supposed to be about motherhood. So we're gonna have her take care of a baby. That's gonna be the theme. Like if you just look at the producers' comments, that's what it's about. When you watch the show, you're like, God, no, it's so much more. And they and the looking after the baby thing is not just, oh, it's a cute baby, I'm gonna mouth feed it milk. Wow, isn't that cool? Like, no, they go far, and it's great, and I love it.
Yeah, it's. Now, if only the follow-up season would have been even as close as good.
Yeah, it's not going to be bad. Like, Star Twinkle is not going to be as good as Hugtto. That is obvious.
Yeah.
It might have some cooler action scenes, maybe just because they have more diverse movesets. But it's probably not bad yet. But it's just it's playing it very safe and very by the numbers. Even though like it's cool because like they could go to space and there's an alien. But so far, it's still playing it very safe.
Yeah, no, like I was really disappointed, like because as soon as I had finished Hugtto, I jumped straight into Star Twinkle because I was like, all right, time to see.
Of course that's
time to see this new season and what it's about. And I'm like, because I did like the designs, I like the art direction, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm down for this. I didn't expect it to be the same level, but like, given like just how rich and textured the characters were in Hugtto Precure, like jumping into Star Twinkle, and I get the main character girl, and she is just generic, energetic, fun girl. Like, you know, like she has a lot of energy, and she's really excitable, and she loves space, and that is the entirety of her character that we learn in the first episode, where compared to the first episode of Hugtto, where it's just like, you know, we get like a lot of her personality, like a little bit of her insecurities, we get like her life goal stuff, and she becomes like a very relatable character before we even like get into like the whole Precure aspect, where in this new series we jump straight to I like space. Oh no, a magical mascot. I get to be a magical girl now. And that's like the entire episode. And I'm like, wow, that didn't even try to have characters. So yeah, I'm not. And you've watched what, 4 or 5 episodes now, or
we're at episode 5, I think.
Yeah,
and no, it's like I said, it's just it's safe. It's very safe and familiar. It might have some cool action scenes just because like I said, there is some interesting art direction. They might go to space, and Hikaru has a cool thing because she can make like star platforms, and she's got like star punches, and then she can make like star platforms in midair and star shields, and it looks like that could be fun. But I don't know. We'll see. It's like I said, like I'm used to Precure not blowing me away, so Hugtto did, and it was great. And Star Twinkle will probably just watch, just not as properly or as obsessively.
Right.
I'll watch the episodes, make sure I'm probably caught up. But you know,
yeah, it's just kind of a bummer because, like I said, I wasn't expecting anything like super amazing, but like the fact that it's like, okay, well, it's gonna be like a fun space adventure series. Where's the fun space adventure at very least? I do like I said,
I don't know, not even at space yet.
Yeah, no, like
sorry.
Yeah, and it's just
anyway,
I mean, I do like the designs. Maybe like if you tell me like once they get to space, if things start picking up,
yeah, exactly,
I'll jump back onto it. But like right now, I'm just like I think I'm just gonna go like watch Hugtto Precure, one of the other older shows, and
I want to watch Hugtto too.
Yeah, I'm about to say like you and I need to like watch Hugtto together, and then we could do like a
all I've been doing right now recently, like I've just been watching it the last few like months just through Sakagaburo. I need to watch it for reals,
right?
Not just for the Sakuga.
Yeah, see, so like you and I can watch like Hugtto Precure, and then we could do a Hugtto PreCast, and whenever the hell we finish that, and maybe one day even a Dragon Cast. That could also be a thing.
What's a Dragon Cast?
I think it's when you cast a dragon to be a leading man in your movie. I'm not sure. I
see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
It makes lots of sense.
Yes.
We're very
like you know, I think it's for like when you just cast a bunch of dragons for dragon diversity. You know, you got to have dragon representation.
Of course, you need your Eastern dragons, your Western dragons, your all kinds of mythological dragons.
Yeah, those are the only 2 I know either, so it's fine. But Hugtto Precure though is just the most a show has made me feel things. Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's the most the show has made me feel things since I watched Evangelion for the first time. I mean, that was not that long ago, but still, yeah. I think actually there was one point I was watching them at the same time.
It's really weird to think of like when I think of like shows that have made me feel things, and I'm like, like this show made me feel things, like feel feelings, like complex emotional feelings about as much as Ava, about as much as Utena.
And it has the advantage over Ava and Utena over not being really obscure over things.
Yeah, no, because it's
and
more
kind of just
emotionally
being
upfront.
like, oh yeah, no, we're just, yeah, it's very emotionally upfront about it. So yeah,
like Utena is like weird and abstract in ways, but like when it comes to like the character stuff, it is very like in your face. Like it gets very emotionally raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I need to watch
like
that as well.
There are some episodes that'll definitely make you cry, but oh man. Yeah. So that's our thoughts on Hugtto Precure. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Gabby?
No, just watch Precure. It's fun, and I need someone to talk about it too. And yeah, no, yeah, Hugtto's good. Also, but obviously, if you watch a good season of Precure, don't expect the next season to be as good. Like I said, it's the Power Rangers thing.
Yeah.
Every season has a mostly different kind. I mean, like I think the higher up production stuff, sort of like the overall like executive producers are the same, but directors are different, character designers, are different. Everyone's different, so. Don't expect, writers are different. Don't expect these shows to always blow you away, but Hugtto was really good and maybe an emotional wreck, and yay, it's fun.
Yeah, crying, so much fun. I had a great time with all the crying.
You can, oh, you know what? No, you know how we should I could end this off? You can do anything, you can be anything. Embrace your own shining future. Fre, mina, fre, watashi.
Delightful.